key spots on the map where if something goes wrong, the whole system could just break. And today, we're looking at what might be the single most dangerous one of them all, a tiny island right at the heart of a massive superpower showdown.
Okay, just let this number sink in for a second. 90%. That is the share of the world's most advanced computer chips. You know, the tiny little brains inside your phone, your car, the data centers that run the internet, even the most advanced military gear, all of it made in just one place, Taiwan.
So here's the question that keeps generals and presidents up at night. What happens when that one single point of failure sits right on top of a geopolitical earthquake fault line? Let's unpack this because you really need to understand why this one spot on the globe is so unbelievably critical.
First up, the trillion-dollar waterway. See, before we even get to the fancy technology, we have to talk about the water. The story of this choke point, it starts with the simple geography of the Taiwan Strait itself.
This isn't just some random stretch of ocean. It is one of the busiest shipping superhighways on the entire planet. I mean, look at this. For places like Japan and South Korea, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars in trade flowing through here. But get this, the biggest number on the chart, that's China. China itself depends on this strait for nearly $1.4 trillion of its own trade. So any disruption here doesn't just hurt its neighbors, it literally chokes off China's own economic lifeline.
So that's the waterway. But the island sitting in the middle of it? Well, it holds an even more powerful weapon. This is where a simple trade route morphs into a high-tech fortress. We're talking about the world's silicon shield.
This brings us to this really fascinating idea, the silicon shield. Think of it like a new kind of Cold War deterrence. The strategy isn't just to stop an invasion with planes and ships, but to make the economic fallout so devastating for everyone, including the attacker, that nobody in their right mind would even try it. It's a defense strategy built not on missiles, but on microchips.
And look, this is not just some theory cooked up by academics. This is a direct quote, a public warning from the chairman of TSMC, the most important company you've probably never heard of. He's making it crystal clear. If you invade our factories, the most sophisticated on Earth, go dark. He's basically telling any potential aggressor, the prize you're coming for, yeah, it'll be destroyed the second you try to take it.
Okay, so we've got the economic layer and the tech layer, but now we have to zoom out and look at the whole military map, because Taiwan is the absolute centerpiece of a much, much bigger geopolitical game. This is the first island chain.
So, what is the first island chain? Well, it all depends on where you're standing. If you're the US or its allies, you see a defensive barrier that keeps China's military ambitions in check. But if you're in Beijing, that same chain looks like a cage, literally bottling up your navy and stopping you from projecting power out into the deep waters of the Pacific.
And this is why Taiwan's physical location is everything. It's the central, critical link in that chain. If China were to control Taiwan, the cage is broken, the gate is open. But as long as it doesn't, the cage holds. This is exactly why U.S. General Douglas MacArthur famously called the island an unsinkable aircraft carrier.
All right, so the pieces are on the board, right? We have a critical trade route, a technological fortress, and a strategic military linchpin all in one place. Now let's look at the two superpowers staring each other down over it, and what they each stand to win or lose.
For China, taking control of Taiwan is about fulfilling a core national promise of rejuvenation. It's about breaking out of that strategic cage and finally becoming a true global power. But for the United States, it's about protecting its allies, keeping the seas open for everyone, holding on to its tech advantage, and frankly, containing a rising rival. You can see how these two sets of goals are almost perfectly opposed. There's not a lot of room for compromise.
So, with the stakes this incredibly high, what would actually happen if this whole thing ignites? Well, the predictions are pretty much unanimous, and they are absolutely terrifying.
And no, that's not an exaggeration. Security analysts, economists, they're all saying the same thing. A war over Taiwan wouldn't just be some regional conflict. It would trigger a global economic depression. Full stop. If you want to put a number on it, some estimates say it would wipe out over $10 trillion from the global economy. To put that in perspective, that's a bigger financial shock than the 2008 crash and the COVID pandemic combined. It's a number so huge it's almost meaningless. And the dominoes would fall instantly. The world's supply of advanced chips? Gone. Overnight. International shipping? Paralyzed. You could expect shortages of basically every electronic device you can think of. The world's two biggest economies, the US and China, would be crippled. And all of this with the very real risk of it escalating into a world war between nuclear powers.
Which leaves us with this really chilling paradox, doesn't it? The Silicon Shield, Taiwan's greatest defense, was designed to make it too important to fail, too critical to attack. But in this new era of superpower competition, could that irreplaceable, high-tech prize become the very thing that makes it too valuable to leave alone? That's the question at the very heart of the world's most dangerous choke point.
This is obviously a situation that's changing all the time, and it's one of the most important stories in the world to keep an eye on. To stay up to date on this and other big global issues, make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.